Seven Deadly Sins just freaking destroyed me. So, manga spoilers. If you're reading it, I suggest read the manga first. And if you're not reading it, yes, this will spoil one big hype moment for you. However, the anime will not be adapting this for at least a decade. So, don't feel obligated to turn around. It doesn't actually ruin any of the flow of the story. It's just a plot twist after a seemingly happy ending. Now, with that out of the way, the Seven Deadly Sins writer is a freaking badass. I relate to the series because the writer is the biggest troll of them all. After they beat the Demon King, original sinner dude, the bad guys seem to be gone, the world is at peace, everyone's happy. Even more importantly than any of that, the thematic, psychological story arc of every single one of the Seven Deadly Sins has come full circle to fruition, as I've stated in my video on the war arc, on my individual video on Ban, and in my individual video on Meliodas. I was extraordinarily happy in the way everyone turned out, and even though I do praise Meliodas in his final arc, I did state in that video certain issues I've had in regard to his character and certain ways that it needs to be flushed out. Well, now it has the chance to be flushed out, because since he's too powerful for the human realm or some BS like that to make the ending seem sadder, he decides to go back to the demon world. He has no choice but to take up the title of Demon King and stay there. And Elizabeth, of course, his lover, says she will go with him, much to everyone's surprise. No one saw that coming. No, I mean literally. In the manga, they were like, what? Elizabeth is gonna go with him? Everyone knew that Elizabeth was gonna go with him. Anyway, Elizabeth is happily going with him, and all of a sudden, in the middle of nowhere, this massive boulder from a nearby mountain just somehow comes tumbling down, and by total accident, squashes Elizabeth and seemingly kills her. Many philosophers would call this big oof. What's even more is, after we had this big finale to a massive climactic fight, the character arcs seemed to have ended. We had 3 chapters of epilogue where it was just showing how life is hunky-dory now and the series could end. It was hinted that this would be the final chapter and epic troll. No, Elizabeth dies in front of Meliodas' face, and seemingly by accident. Now, I've obviously come to the conclusion of what happened. It's fairly obvious. I've been telling you about this forever. The thematic relevance of Lord Twigo is far too important to misunderstand. And before you say, but Nux, this meme is old already. No, the meme is not old already. The meme is only beginning because it has grown to level past meme. You see, being that I've studied Lord Twigoism for far too long, I know all of everything he says in the series. And in the first episode of the Seven Deadly Sins, when he's fighting Meliodas and he sees Elizabeth, he recognizes Elizabeth to be of the royal family by her earring and says, I recognize that earring, so conclusion! You are a member of the royal family! Lord Twigo's words give me life. This is so beautiful. But what else is interesting, when he realizes that she is collaborating with the Seven Deadly Sins, the worst of fugitives that seem to have killed the King Holy Knight, he says these terribly terrifying words that only now actually mean something. Lord Twigo says, it looks like I'll have to kill her and make it look like an accident. Yeah, and y'all still doubt the power of Lord Twigo. For shame. The guy says he'll kill her, make it look like an accident. She literally dies by an accident. Everyone's like, oh no, it's not Lord Twigo. Next Taku, what are you smoking? And to that I say, let's move on and not talk about it because it's not prevalent to the conversation, unlike Lord Twigo, which was not a tangent at all. Now, the reason why I actually went ahead to making this video is because whenever something new happens in any manga, I always get a kit and caboodle of comments saying, yo, Nux, what's your thoughts on this? What do you think? Blah-de-blah-de-blah. And while I do appreciate that, and I'm honored that you'd like to know my thoughts on various things, I don't think I've ever had a mob attack my channel quite like they did after Chapter 310 of Seven Deadly Sins. My entire comment section is flooded with comments asking me for my take on it. I did do a lot of Seven Deadly Sins content, and I really felt like I got to the nitty-gritty of what makes the series great in its own way. So, with a proper conclusion in mind, in regards to the various character journeys that we've seen, what does this have to offer for the series? Is it a final shock moment? Is the story just being dragged out for no reason, aside from Mooney? Well, I obviously can see both of these being realistic. However, I do not think that is the case. 5 years ago, if I would have heard myself say this, I would have probably wanted to punch myself in the throat. but one of the aspects that makes the Seven Deadly Sins brilliant is the fact that the plot sucks. Now, hear me out for a moment. I was not compelled by the various ideologies that are tackling each other or the societal meta-commentary on nobility or racism. No, none of that was really major topics of discussions. They weren't themes tackled like you see in most shonen. The idea of solitude in Naruto, the ideals of dreams in One Piece, the ideal of hope in My Hero Academia, the ideals of equality in Black Clover. There is generally an underlying theme to everything that goes on in an anime, and that's what makes the plot fit tighter together. That's what makes something called a plot twist hit really hard. It's the plot that generally makes characters great. A character like Stain from My Hero Academia, for example, who I still think is one of the 3 best characters in that entire series, is only great because of the themes of the plot surrounding him. Stick him into any other story and he's this nutcase vigilante who would make Lord Voldemort's nose jealous. And that's the same with almost every other character I love, how they fit into the motif of the series so well. To give brief examples to what I'm talking about from the other 3 series as well, Rock Lee is an amazing character in his own right, but it's amplified so much more by the idea of hard work versus natural talent, which is pushed in the very fabric of the Naruto versus Sasuke rivalry and is an important thematic element to the entire drive of the series. In Black Clover, the dynamic between the brothers Langris and Finral is a microcosm of the entire series with what makes someone truly a magic knight. What makes someone truly worthy of your reverence? Is it power or is it heart? Does it matter what status they are? Because in the end of the day, Finral, who was born to a noble family, did not have the power to be looked up at, but ended up becoming something due to being inspired by Asta, which is a literal opposite of nobility, fitting into the societal elements and the beauty of individuality, not putting people in boxes depending on how they were born or how much power they have. Or in a series like One Piece, where a super minor antagonist like Bellamy, who he gets introduced making fun of Luffy, and he's beating him up in a bar, and Luffy's not fighting back because of the idea that not every fight is worth fighting. But the moment he catches wind that Luffy wants to find Sky Island, he says that's nothing but a petty dream and it will never come to reality. Dreams are for losers. And that is when Luffy beat him in one punch, because he was someone that stood against the theme of dreams that One Piece was trying to push at that moment. Obviously, there's a million great characters in all of these series, and it's not the point at all. The fact that Bellamy, an antagonist that shows up for 2 episodes in the Jaya arc, is literally a fantastic antagonist, despite the fact that his powers are stupid, that he's not smart, not devious or conniving, has nearly no impact on the overall story, but is still so memorable and such a great, well-written villain due to the fact that his ideals stood in opposition of the themes of what the story is pushing forward. Now, I say all this simply because Seven Deadly Sins does away with this formula entirely. Now, in certain areas, I would say it's to its detriment, and in certain areas, it's Seven Deadly Sins' greatest strength. If you've seen my previous videos on the Seven Deadly Sins, you probably know where I'm getting to, but every character carries their own psychological burdens, and the story, in a nutshell, is everyone getting over them in different ways depending on their personality, on the trauma they've felt, and on the situations they're in. Whether it's through King manning up, Escanor swallowing his pride, Ban giving instead of taking, or Meliodas accepting reality, everyone has come full circle to a certain degree where we can actually have a happy ending, where we had 3 episodes of epilogue where everyone's character arc was wrapped up nicely. The beauty of everyone's character arc is that it is intertwined with the story that's going on at any given moment, but not thematically. What wonderful, relevant, thematic themes were pushed forward in the plot of the series. Oh, the Hellbram arc was freaking awesome, right? Yeah, he was a fairy and he was killed by humans, so he was brought back from the dead and he was fighting King, and then King beat him, and then he went Alphonse Elric style, turning himself into a helmet, and then he died. Wow, great character writing. That basically taught me all about life. However, it did teach King to man up in different ways. It's not that the themes of the series are influencing the themes of the character that teaches us different things or that's trying to push some form of philosophy. It's that every character has their own psychology, and it's the actions that take place within the not that tightly written plot that develops them as people. Seven Deadly Sins, despite the bombastic fights and the extremely badass moments, to me, is 100% character driven in every way. And I don't think anyone will praise it that its plot is the tightest. So why am I saying all this? What does it have to do with a rock accidentally? Remember the accident part, it's crucial to Lord Twigo's plan. Killed Elizabeth. What does this have to do with anything? Well, simply put, this story has no future with plot alone. Yes, there are many loose-ish ends that I can tie into this, aside from Lord Twigo, which is not loose at all. That is an extremely tight end. The curse just took effect, and Elizabeth actually died by accident, so they're gonna have to go to the celestial goddess lady to try to undo the curse or whatever. Or, it turned out that she was assassinated by either goddesses for running off with a demon, or remaining demon forces,
or Lord fucking Twigo.
And we can get into some interesting arcs because the demons basically represent this do or die, live life to the fullest anarchist mentality, and the goddess clan needs everything to fit in place with law and order, pushing forward an authoritarianist agenda. Neither are good and both will implode, and that's why you have humanity. Humanity is the middle of the road and needs to be the king in this situation. Despite the strengths on either side of the scale, neither can stand. I can very much see this being the plot going forward. However, as I've mentioned, the characters have come full circle. While Ban is my favorite character, one of my favorite characters ever, I don't feel like him getting even a massive moment where this ultimate alien overlord comes and Ban one-shots him, saving the universe. It will not satisfy me because it means nothing for his psychological development. He is a fully fleshed out, developed character, and anything they do with him in the future will only sully it. So I can give guesses as to what may take place. For example, they mentioned that Arthur was the only casualty of the war. It says casualty, it doesn't say he died per se, and if he becomes the main character, honestly, that would be freaking amazing. As a human pushing his own mentality and being a proper king and mediator between the human and goddess realms. I could see this working because Arthur is a character that was not fully fleshed out. He still has his own personal character journey that never came to fruition because of his unruly demise. Unfortunately, he's not in very good shape right now. If he were to pick up the sword and become the main character of this coming arc, where Meliodas is filled with fury and the goddesses are attempting to keep everything in order, that would be fascinating. That's tackling a character story through the devices of an interesting plot. So I can see that take place, but just as likely, I can very well see there be a massive time skip. And when I say massive, I don't mean like thousands of years, just a bit, because that'll give time for everyone to fall into different mental issues. Imagine, for example, this takes place, and Meliodas, who at this point is a completely psychologically sound individual, like I said in my video on Meliodas, which will be linked in the description and at the end, and it's a dope video, basically telling you why Seven Deadly Sins is amazing, despite the hate. A time skip gives him space to breathe. He has another trauma at this point that he has to try to reconcile, and that can be further hurt in many ways. He ends up trapped in Demon Realm alone. He ends up rampaging and his own friends stop him. There are so many things that could take place from this point that puts him in a really dark spot. And also, for the onlookers, such as Ban and the rest, imagine witnessing this take place. It can leave them in mental turmoil as well. So, a time skip is also a very viable option. Or it's Seven Deadly Sins and no one dies in Seven Deadly Sins. So, The Rock missed Elizabeth. It's a happy ending after all. That would be pretty dope. And I would give kudos to the writer because he literally took all of us for a massive ride. As far as likelihood though, and as far as Meliodas' character journey, if it is as I've surmised over, and Elizabeth is actually dead, Meliodas will cry in the next chapter, just like he cried when he finished his training arc with the druids. He will cry and not destroy anything, retaining some form of composure, potentially waiting for a future generation where Elizabeth is reincarnated. This will be the ultimate test of his character character, and it can potentially end the series far sooner than most of us think at this point. What I'm trying to say is, above anything else, I loved this plot twist. I love that he made it look like the anime was ending and he trolled all of us, because I relate to trolls. I don't know why, I just sort of do. Oh god, it's another meme format. Hundreds of thousands of people get trolled. Literally nobody. Nux Taku. You clearly don't understand the great philosophy of trolling hundreds of thousands of people. Why is this happening to me? And despite the not so strong plot or thematic structure of the series, I never felt like any of it was lacking due to the greatness of the character psychology. So, again, going forward from here, either it's just fully troll and mad respect, truly the maddest of lads. It will continue and try to focus on plot, in which case it's a cash grab, and I fear for the future of the series, which I am still going to be following due to the investment I have to the characters. Or it can be something that I've mentioned prior, being a time skip focusing on Arthur, on Meliodas, or something else entirely I'm not thinking of. I don't think of all this shiz. It could be a next generation 7 Deadly Sins. But I feel like with Meliodas disbanding the 7 Deadly Sins right before this taking place, that's the end of all of their personal journeys and how they've intertwined to save one another, because in the end of the day, they were 7 broken people that came together and managed to finally, after all the hardships, help each other to fix themselves. That's really what the 7 Deadly Sins represent to me. So with it being disbanded, I fear for the future. I fear as to what the story will become, but I also am of enough respect towards the writer, not just in the trolliness, but also in his understanding of psychology and what actually makes his series work so well. I will give you the benefit of the doubt, and I await in bated breath. I have never been so hyped to see where a story will go from here, despite the underlying dread to that hype. If you understand my position, I would appreciate if you let me know in the comments to validate me, to tell me I'm not completely insane, only partially insane. Partially insane, A-okay, I think everyone should admit being partially insane.
I say that because I think everyone is partially insane. Admitting it is just reaching the problem.
Or maybe I'm imposing myself upon others because, it makes me feel less lonely. Definitely subscribe for future anime analysis, parody, or Lord Twigo videos covering the 7 Deadly Sins and more. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video. It's not my most intense video I've ever made, especially in regard to the 7 Deadly Sins, which I've extensively spoke of in much detail, much deeper at many different points, but I was swarmed with so many Nux what's your thoughts questions. Here's my thoughts. I hope this was to your liking. Let me know if you want me to make more occasional videos focused more on the weekly stuff of what's going on. I follow everything. I'm excited. My Hero Academia has a pretty dope arc going on right now. You know, link in the description to my Twitter. Feel free to follow me there. Link in the description to my Patreon. All donations super duper freaking help, fam. Help to keep the channel alive, and all donors are invited to the Discord server. So I wanted to especially thank David and Noel, Negus Nogus, Burning Bush, Rise Warren, Sage of Snake, Wilson Fletcher, Team Sparky65, The Unknown Otaku, Lazy Ronin, Girthy Worm Jim, Allison Stricker, The Wolf of Guard, JD Fincher, Elaser, The Ethan, Ravy Landek, Kevin McLean, Jordan, Frisky Dingo, White Noise 32, Nasty Frank's Barbecue, Talon, Best is Daddy Cross, Miriam Ramirez, Chezzy, True Green, Hammers the Great, Praise Lord de Gilgameshu, Billy Thompson, Serial Flex Offender, Sinon, Kid Ori, JJ Slave Rams, The Night Brights, LJ, Kaiser Wanar, Dan Soko, Divine Reigns, Teakui, Hexiled, Skylar Leg, Samuel Guzman, Burning Halo, Juan Centeno, Karma, King Rainbow, Jeffrey, Baltazar, and TM Philly. Also wanted to thank the Lord Twigo rank. Chubbs is the man, Noctress13, MD, Adria Pica, Soza Nerdified, Everest, Esposito, Austin, Wexelblot, the Ninth Master. I also wanted to thank the God Usopp rank, Dark Element, Eduardo Flores, Steve, Necro, Sunny Parks, Maurice Luis Dreyfus, and Gintama for life, and also to the man, the myth, the legend, Steve. Hope you all have yourselves the most wonderful evening. Let me know your thoughts on this chapter in the comments. I'm all too curious, all ears, and eager to know your take. You're probably wondering why I'm uploading so frequently, and honestly, it's because I felt a little bit bad that I'm doing this video, and it obviously only applies to the audience that reads the 7 Deadly Sins manga, so I wanted to not really count it as like a full upload, so I made it a little faster. You know, because fan base is sick, and I love you guys, and have yourselves the most wonderful evening, and stay freaking weird, fam!